Hi, Nick Maxwell here again, talking about the CGY750 V2 update. In this video, we're going to go ahead and cover the tail rotor setup and tail rotor tuning methods. So we're going to go ahead and use the plus data button. Scroll to Rudder Basic. The rudder actually has been simplified a lot from the version 1.4. So the performance you're going to notice is the same, but a lot of the parameter combinations have been grouped together. So everything is still there performance-wise. All we're doing is just a better tuning method. So the first parameter here is your servo type, which is 760 using the Futaba BLS 276 or 256 or any of the narrow width servos. Your gyro direction, so same as always, just make sure that your gyro is compensating correctly by turning the helicopter. The tail rotor should try to turn the tail rotor blades into whichever direction that you're moving. Next parameter is your servo limits. This is simply setting your maximum. So just make sure that there's no binding there. Work mode is the way that you're going to set the tail rotor gain, and also whether it's in heading hold or normal mode. So CMT is actually transmitter controlled. If you're using a Futaba transmitter, by simply pushing the normal button or the AVCS button and also the gyro gains, everything will be operated through the transmitter. If it is in normal mode, it is purely in normal mode, in rate mode, so you do not have AVCS or heading hold. If it is in AVCS, that is full heading hold, and the gyro gain will be set simply by channel 5 or in the gyro. Okay, and that actually completes the basic tail rotor setup, so it's been simplified quite a bit. We're going to go ahead and go into the Rutter Expert menu. And what this allows you to do is tune some of the stops, some of the delays, some of the other parameters that you might choose for your helicopter or just your personal taste. The first parameter is actually going to be Rudder Neutral. A lot of us, we sit there, a lot of helicopters now have adjustable servo arms, so that's not a critical thing. Or if you're like me, you sit there and you fight servo horns to try to get everything 90 degrees. If by chance you could not get 90 degrees and then a suitable, whatever your helicopter is, usually we try to recommend between 5 to 8 degrees offset torque in the tail rotor when everything is neutral. What that's going to do is it's going to compensate a little bit for the torque of the motor so the gyro doesn't have to work as hard. So with this neutral value at 0, you should have about 5 to 8 degrees in your tail rotor, and your servo arm is 90 degrees as possible. If it's not, by running this number up and down, you can actively change the neutral. Okay. Next parameter is the angular rate. What this parameter does now, a lot of guys used to adjust the dual rate, but to keep the resolution as high as possible from the transmitter to the flight control system, you can actually adjust the pirouette rate now here. So for example, 720 degrees is stock in 3D mode. That means that the helicopter is going to rotate at 720 degrees a second. By raising or lowering that, you're doing the exact same thing as lowering your dual rate, but just actually inside the gyro, so all your resolutions are the same. The number below that reads what you're actually outputting. So as I move the stick here, the number is going up to 720. Next parameter is Expo. This just all kind of is the same thing. If you don't want to do it in your transmitter, you can do it in the gyro. The next parameter is the delay in. So as you move the stick to full, there is a certain amount of delay to give a natural feel. If not, the tail rotor would be really erratic and kind of not as consistent as what you might like. So by tuning that number, you can tune it so that the tail rotor reacts to how you adjust your thumb on the stick to try to follow your thumb a little more naturally. Delay out is the same thing, except for this can also control some bounce. If you have coasting, that means that the delay is too high. If you have kind of a snap back, that means that the delay is too low. So if you do on most helicopters, you put it in there and it's probably going to work just fine. But in this case, we do allow you to adjust that now. The feed forward rate is so based off collective pitch. On some electric helicopters that have a lot of real torquey motors, there is some compensation that is needed. So this is based around neutral pitch. So below neutral and above neutral, it's going to actually feed in right rudder. You want to go ahead and set that value so that it's feeding in right rudder as you move up and down. Make sure that you do high and low because it is two separate numbers. Acceleration gain is kind of a neat parameter. It works with the feed forward mixing. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is put a little feed forward in now so you can kind of see how it works. Okay, so as you can see, as I move the collective stick, my tail rotor is moving. By using this acceleration value, what it does is for momentarily, if you put in too much feed forward, say your helicopter requires upwards of 50% feed forward to keep the tail from kicking, that could affect things like rolls, it could affect pitch pumps, it could affect tick-tocks, things where you're changing the collective really rapidly. So what you can do is lower that feed forward amount and increase the acceleration gain. So for a brief second, it actually boosts that feed forward mix. See just how far it actually moves, and then it centers back to where it was. So it's really useful for electric helicopters. Okay. And that's actually all of your parameters, and you can get the tail feeling however you want by using just those few steps and the basic setup. For the next video, go ahead and click or watch and follow for the governor, or also you can go back and watch some of the swash plate setup videos and detailed tuning.